friends. So I wanted to preface this video with kind of explaining what my mindset is. It started when I watched a documentary on Netflix, and it was about two high school girls that had gotten sexually assaulted at a party by boys when they were drunk. And I was discussing it with my husband, who's a teacher, and I was saying, like, man, I really wish that teachers and adults could actually talk to young people about things like this. There's this weird thing of like, no one at high school, including the adults, can like acknowledge that these are things that are happening as far as like drinking and having sex in high school, even though everybody knows that it is. And I don't know why that is, because adults do have experiences with these kind of things that they can pass on to young people. So anyhow, my thought in this was, I'm somebody that is older, I'm 30 years old, but I also have this unique position where I do have a younger audience. I was just thinking maybe these are some things that I could talk about that might be helpful to some people. And hopefully I'm not so old that you guys think that I don't have any kind of like relatability. Promise I'm not that old. So I thought I would start kind of a video series and periodically do videos just talking about what I learned about and have a different subject. So if you have a suggestion for a subject that you just want me to talk about, like my experiences and things that I've learned about it, then please let me know in the comments. But today I wanted to start with what I've learned about drinking. To go back a little bit, when I was a kid and really up through high school, I always had a very clear-cut idea of what was right and what was wrong. And there was really no gray area for me. It was either right or wrong. And I guess I should also mention that my parents weren't particularly strict religious people. We did go to church, but it wasn't a you shouldn't do these things because of some religious reason. But I got it in my head of like, drinking is wrong until you're 21, and like there's no gray area for that. So the group of friends that I had, nobody really drank at all until my senior year of high school, and even then it was like a very rare occasion, but I was not going to take part of that. I wanted nothing to do with it. I was very strict about no drinking. And then I got to college, and I would say that I became a little more flexible freshman year. I always made sure that it was in kind of a controlled situation, but I definitely partook in some alcohol drinking. And I don't really know where the switch happened of deciding that this is like not the correct behavior, in the sense that I am not of the age, and if I were to get caught, I would be in trouble. But I guess just deciding that I was going to do it anyway. I think that the benefit of kind of being a late starter when it came to alcohol is that I had a better sense of how to drink, because there honestly is a correct way of how to drink. What I mean by that is pacing yourself and really kind of figuring out where your line is between feeling good and it being problematic and making poor choices. When you are the sober person in a situation of a lot of drunk people, you kind of think, I don't ever want to act like that when people are acting foolish. So I definitely did some, I guess, observation first, knowing what I did not want to be like, and then therefore could judge for myself when I was getting to the point where it's like, okay, there could be some poor decision making that will happen if I keep going, so I know that I need to pull back a little bit. But a huge part of how to drink, and this is kind of the main reason I wanted to talk about this, is being safe and protecting yourself against something bad happening to you. And really I'm talking mostly about girls and being vulnerable to unwanted sexual activity. I can't remember if it was my college or if it was another college that made a lot of enemies by an article that this guy posted. And I don't know if maybe it was because it was a guy that was posting it, but he talked about different things that girls could do to keep themselves protected more from sexual assault while they were drinking. I think that a lot of his points were valid, but he didn't really present it in a way that made him very popular. But the things that I would definitely say is always make sure that you're with a group of people that you trust. Make sure that you do have one person that's been the designated sober friend, So that way, if you do get into a situation that you are more susceptible to something bad happening, that you have somebody who cares about you that can step in, make sure that you're pacing yourself. So just because you don't feel something immediately doesn't mean that it's not gonna have a delayed reaction and kick in. And I think the thing that he had said that caught some of the most flack was to not present yourself in a way that could give off the impression that you were interested in some kind of sexual activity that you weren't. Whether it be the way that you were dressing or the way that you were talking to boys. Here's what I have to say about that. I like to use the example of my car. Nobody should ever come into my car with the intention of breaking in and taking something that doesn't belong to them. It's a very clear right and wrong there, but it happens. And so I take precautions to not have my valuables in my car and to make sure that my doors are locked, because even though I know it's absolutely wrong if somebody were to break into my car and take something of mine, there are also added measures that I can do to make sure that it doesn't happen. When it comes to how you present yourself as a woman, under no circumstances ever should anyone try and do anything sexual with you that you have not explicitly said is okay. And at any point, even if you start down a path and then decide I've changed my mind, just because you were fine with something a minute ago does not mean that if it gets to the point that you're not fine with it, that the other person should not stop. No one should ever take advantage of you while you were too drunk to consent, while you were too drunk to even be awake for what is happening. Those are very clear, right and wrong. Those are things that shouldn't happen. But unfortunately, they do happen. So in a world where those kinds of things do happen, unfortunately, those are things to consider. I think about not wearing something that people might get the impression of me that I would want to sleep with them when I wouldn't want to. My behavior towards guys, I take into consideration that I wouldn't want to give off the impression that I wanted something that I didn't. I shouldn't have to do that. No one should have to do that, but that's just the reality that we have to face. And sometimes it's better to be safe than it is to be right. Even though I know that it is, the right thing is that you should be able to wear what you want and flirt if you want, and there not be any expectation on the other side of what you're willing to do sexually. But I would rather be safe, and I would rather make sure that I don't even get into a situation that has any blurred lines than be right about it. If you are in a situation where you see somebody that is so drunk that they can't stand and can't talk, look out for them. I know that it's probably not the way that you want to spend your night, is taking care of somebody else, but you could be the one that makes sure they don't have a situation that they will have to live with for the rest of their life. And I want to end with something that my husband actually does tell his students. I think this is usually a conversation that he has before prom. And that is, if you get into a situation where you have gone to some kind of party and you are drunk and you are feeling uncomfortable for any reason, or it's a matter of, potentially getting into a car with somebody that has been drinking, or drinking and driving yourself, call your parents. I can almost guarantee you the majority of parents would rather you call them and say, I've had too much to drink, or the people around me have had too much to drink and it's a bad situation and I need a ride home, than have something irreversible happen because you were too afraid to call them or of getting in trouble. And honestly, with Uber and Lyft and all of these other ride services, there's really no excuse ever to be in a car with somebody who's been drinking that's driving, or to drink and drive yourself. So I guess that's it. I hope that you guys maybe got something out of this. I just figure with the position I'm in, to be able to talk about some of my experiences and knowledge I've picked up along the way to you guys in any way that I can be helpful to you, it is important to me. So if there's something you want me to talk about, please let me know in the comments, or if you have questions, I'll try and answer some questions in the comments. But otherwise, I love you and I will see you next time.